Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you've joined me today. Oh my, this is June, and I had thought of having a wonderful tea party with you down by the bay. But it's so cold, and the rain is falling, and I don't know how it is where you are living, but in Western Washington, we have had almost non-stop rain since March, April, May, and now June. Well, this morning when I woke up, I looked out at my trees, and I have fir trees, and it looked like shimmering diamonds. All of the beautiful raindrops had landed on the tree and were just so big sitting there, and it's June. Well, we're gonna hope for some sunshine soon. Because of this, I have this candle lit on the tea cart, and I thought, why not add one more? So I put this candle out, which is a nice single candle, and it just brings a nice feeling for our little time together. And I have some very special show. I was thinking the tea time is almost like show and tell. And show and tell is fun. It always was fun at school, wasn't it? An opportunity to share new experiences and new things that a person was able to obtain or receive as a gift. Well, I thought today I'm going to dress like I'm in Vienna or Salzburg going to the tea room. They call them coffee rooms or tea rooms. And they're everywhere. And they have magical cakes. You know, they have a bakery that will bake the bread and rolls, and that's called a bakery. Then they have the konditorei, and that's where the little cakes and, oh my, custards, creations like I had never seen in my life come out of these konditorei, and they're all delicious. Anything I tasted from there was fabulous. Well, I thought I'm going to bring something. I'll tell you what, one of the things that sparked it was I have a little collection of things with me that this is a little tiny pitcher that is from Germany, and you see the blue flower on it. And I need to look up, I don't know the name of the flower, but this blue flower is always combined with the red flower and the Edelweiss. And here's a bell I have from Switzerland. And see, they always have that blue flower, and then the Edelweiss is in the middle with the red flower. And then I found this is a lovely, I have a little collection of things from Europe in my bathroom, my powder room, my downstairs powder room. And this is also the blue flowers with the heart. And you know, it's because the alpine flowers are so beautiful. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to bring a few items and show you. Now here is a typical alpine chalet. And do you see they always have the flowers and the mountains and the water a little bit. And then they had this wonderful, now this says Bavaria, and so they have the symbol of that part of Bavaria at the bottom. And then before Germany was a united country in the late 1800s, there were many provinces that had their own king and kingdom. Yes, you had Saxony and Prussia and Bavaria and many, too many to list. But then under Otto von Bismarck, they combined, and that was the moment of all over Europe, nationalism. Italy hadn't been a real country. It was all little kingdoms, and the Vatican was also its own little country. And then in the 1800s, they combined and became all of Italy. You know, you had Rome and Florence, and they were all connected, but not formally connected. Now, this is my most special thing I'm bringing you today. And this is an original painting of the Edelweiss, and it's by Johanna von Trapp, one of the children of the von Trapps. And this was a gift to me, and this is what it says on the back. That's a picture of the von Trapp family when they came to America, and it says Johanna von Trapp. And my husband and I received this as a very special gift from Jürgen and Rita Ringman. They were the pastors at the German church in Tacoma where we used to sing. And they gave us this for our 25th wedding anniversary. And there's a signature, Johanna von Trapp. And it's the 3 Edelweiss, and I just love it. It's very sweet. And they're all in their costumes. And if you ever want to read a fascinating book that I read years ago, it's called Maria. And it is her story of her life, Maria von Trapp. And then there's another book called The Trapp Family Singers. And do you know that there are still grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Maria and her husband, Jörg von Trapp, who are still singing? Isn't that wonderful? And when you read her book, you get to know her. What a beautiful person. And she talks about her childhood. She was almost an orphan. Her mother had died. Her father was very eccentric. He was very intellectual, and those were the days when people would collect animals, and in his house he had monkeys and, not giraffes, but he had a lot of animals. And she loved her father, but he really wasn't able to give her the care she needed. And so that is why Maria ended up in the convent in Salzburg. And you know, my daughter and I visited that church. We got to go to a Sunday morning service, the church where she had been a nun. It sits right at the bottom of a big hill that goes to the top where the Salzburg castle sits. And that Salzburg is a fascinating city. And I know travel is so difficult now, but you could go online and they probably have a virtual tour. It would be worth seeing because it's Mozart City. It's called the City of Music. And you know, the mountains are around it. And when you go on the train, you go up to what they call Ober, O-B-E-R in German. That means over Salzburg. And that's the beautiful Bavarian Alps. And that is where you go through Innsbruck and then to Berchtesgaden and Garmisch. And they have filmed such beautiful things. And Rick Steves probably has fabulous travel. You know, why not just go virtually, and then maybe someday you'll get to go in person. But you can learn so much through the travel pictures, can't you? Well, if you haven't gotten your tea yet, pause and get your tea, and I will be waiting for you. Okay, today I have a lovely little silver tea set. and I put a very delicate little cup. And this cup would almost be called what you would say a demitasse. Now, on the video, it might look big, but it's small. And so I'm going to pour out a little cup of tea. And then I like my little splash of milk. I love the shape of this teapot. Do you see? It circles down and sits flat. It doesn't have feet, but just such a nice, small, but very perfect. It just feels like something from Austria. Oh my goodness, that tea is so good today. My daughter and I, we always say this is when we get these gray, smoky, misty days. This is Pride and Prejudice Day. Let's watch Pride and Prejudice or Jane Austen, have hot tea. This is delicious tea. Lovely. Now, I will put my teacup down for a minute because I want to show you the little treat. And this is something you would get in Vienna. They do a lot of chocolate. And these are called 2-bite cakes. They're just little chocolate cupcakes with little sprinkles. Chocolate on chocolate. Very, very Viennese. What my favorite thing, which I've never really been able to find here, I love the little mocha cakes. They were square and they were kind of a yellow sponge, and they had the mocha icing, which is kind of a mix of coffee and caramel, and just so delicious. And then they would have little on top, a little coffee bean, and then you knew it was coffee, and I love that. It was just a little square, perfect size. And it was always served, and I put these on actually, you see I had them sitting on the silver, but I have them actually on a little darling china that has a loop in it, a little plate, and I'll show you the painting on it is so beautiful. I'll just put these down so I can show you this. And this looks very much like the kind of German Viennese china looks. It's kind of got a smoky, a lot of green and pink and flowers. And this also, I will show you. Since we're doing show and tell today, this also, it's a pot of flowers sitting in. This is a French-German plant holder. So I just put this pink pot inside of it, but you could use it for all kinds of flowers. And so when this weather came today and we couldn't go down to the beach and have an outdoor summer talk, I was reminded when I was in Vienna, I was there for a summer, and it was for a music camp, and we had much thunder and lightning. I don't know if they always have that there. And we had many gray, rainy days. And I just remember how cozy it was to dress up and go to the coffee house with our Austrian host. She took us all around, and we went to fabulous places. And I think the best coffee in the world has to be in Vienna. Well, Norway is they're tied, both places wonderful. And so I chose this little purse. I just feel it goes kind of a coffee house purse today. And it's a little kind of a original put together. It's hard to see it all, but this on the side is velvet. It's green and black velvet. And then you unsnap it and it opens, and oh my, guess what's inside? Ha! Something I lost. My best sunglasses. There they are. I took this purse to a tea party and I must have left my sunglasses in it. Well, at least they're safe. I'll put them right back. And I just feel like travel is essential to life. And I feel if I could tell a young person, studying literature, studying history, studying church history, and then going to famous places, that you can do it two ways. You can either study ahead of time and then go to the place, or you go visit, which is kind of what I did, and study backwards, because I went to all these places and I came home and I wanted to know all about them. And so on my own, I was just studying all the time and wanting to learn. And I found that the Alps, the French Alps in Switzerland, the Bavarian Alps, which are in southern Germany, and then the Austrian Alps, I never got to go to the Italian Alps. They're Triol, right on the tip. Everyone says it's the most beautiful of all. But I feel of all the places I was in Europe, on the continent, all of the Alpine country is the most enchanting. And the story of the Edelweiss is so romantic. And it comes out in the Sissi story. You know, Sissi was the last Austrian princess. And I think I've told you about those movies. And in the movie, the prince goes to the top of the mountain to pick her an Edelweiss, because that's where they grow. And that was to prove his love. And it was very scary. Even in the movie, it's totally endangering yourself. Whoa, those Alps, they are like sheer drop. And I don't know how the darling little goats run around, and the deer, they're so sure-footed. God made them to climb there, but boy, you better know what you're doing when you go to the Alps, because those are narrow little paths, and even in modern times, you can only get there through climbing. And the mountain air is something lovely. The mountain air, I think, is the cleanest air, and I love the sea air also. We live in saltwater country, so I love the good salt air. And going to the ocean, we live right near, we're just an hour from the Pacific Ocean. That air is wonderful. But the mountain air, it has its own special quality. And I feel so inspired when I'm in the mountains to write. That's where I really started my journal, my serious journal writing. And I kept that journal for like maybe 30 years. I kept it for consistent. Every day I wrote in my journal. And then life became so busy. I still wrote, but I didn't have that time. But I found that the mountain air clears you, and you can think, and you can dream, and you can write poetry and songs. And you know, that's why the Romantic poets would leave England, go across in the boat, and go over to Italy, and go into France, and go to the Alps, and go to the lakes, and you know, that beautiful Lake Lausanne I've told you about, which is where that Chalon, Chillon, the castle of Chalon. Well, that's the famous Byron poem. And that's called the prisoner at Shalom, because it was obviously, when you go inside this castle, nothing has changed in its Middle Ages. Most of these castles are Middle Ages, and you know, most of them were built by the Normans. They built the castles in England. They built the castles in southern France. They even built the castles in southern Spain. And William the Conqueror is responsible for those castles and he came to England and he rebuilt so many of the churches and monasteries. And the castles in Wales, they go back to William the Conqueror. They just had a gift for architecture. Brilliance. Brilliance. Sometimes they don't know really how they did it. And they still stand. Is that incredible? Unless they have been purposely destroyed through war, they still stand. Huh, isn't that grand? It's a poem. They stand. This is so grand. Yes. I have to have a little more tea. How about you? Well, we sure enjoyed the Queen's Tea Party, didn't we? And I was unable to see several of her events. And so what's so fun is you can go back, because they were 8 hours ahead of us. And so her things were starting at 3 in the morning, our time on the West Coast. And no one can get up at 3 in the morning for an event. So it's so nice. They're on YouTube, and we can pull them up and maybe have a spot of tea and watch some of her wonderful events. And wasn't that grand? Isn't Queen Elizabeth just so precious, so special? What a gift to all of us. And I think the message that comes through is not just her longevity, but her character, her genuine, selfless character, serving others and making others happy. That is what she enjoys doing. And you know, that's what we enjoy doing too. It's a proven fact that when a human being does a good deed for another human being, something lights up in the brain. It's good for your health. It's good for your emotional health and your mental health. To do good and to be kind. And in my daily reading today, I was reading the words of Jesus when he told the story about the man that couldn't pay his debt back. One man owed $5,000, one man owed $500. And the rich man said, I'll forgive your debt. And Jesus used that as an example that he forgives us. And then it goes on and says, because you have been forgiven freely, forgive others. And it said, when you stand praying, if you have aught against any, forgive them. And your heavenly Father will hear your prayer. Wow, what a profound, brilliant thought. He will hear our prayer when we walk in love and forgiveness. So then the disciples said, well, how many times should we forgive, Master? 7 times 7? And Jesus said, no, 7 times 7 times 7. In other words, infinity. Never stop forgiving, because our Heavenly Father never stops forgiving us. Wow. Thank you so much for joining me today on this lovely tea talk. And I tell you, you are all very, very special. I'm going to pick up this tray just one more time so that you can see it. And I put this on a trivet, see, on my tea cart, So there's no chance in having any stain on the wood, because this is a very special tea table. I'm going to pull it forward. I don't know if you can see this, but it has pullouts. You can't really see it, but next time I'll try to set it up so you can. So I could put a pot of tea here, a cup here. It extends, and I want to keep it very nice. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I pray you have a beautiful week, and I hope the sun will shine for you wherever you are, and that all good blessings will truly come your way. Thank you so much, and God bless, and I look forward to seeing you next time.